Now that we've seen how to enter a program, compile it, and run it, we need to spend a little bit of time talking about what all the different lines of the program mean. We'll start up at the beginning at line 1. Notice that you have line numbers to the left of the actual lines that are entered, and that'll help us identify the different parts of the program. The first line reads #include, open angle bracket, IOStream, close angle bracket. This line is what is called a preprocessor directive, actually in combination with the second line. And this directive is telling us that we want our program to include a library known as IOStream, which stands for Input-Output Stream. This library will contain a set of functions that allow us to get input into our program and write output out from our program. The designers of C++ put libraries together like this in order to keep the main language small. Without libraries, a language gets very big and clunky and makes it inefficient. The second line, using namespace std or standard, tells us that the IOStream library can be found in the namespace std or standard. A namespace is just a logical grouping of a set of libraries. IOStream and several other libraries fit very well into what's called the standard namespace. In other words, these are standard libraries that lots of programs will need to use. By putting libraries into namespaces, you can reuse names for functions over again without worrying about a conflict. Moving down to line 4, that line reads int main open and close parentheses. This indicates that we're writing a function. This function is called main, and it has a return value that is an integer. Integer is abbreviated in C++ as int. Every program that you write in C++ must have an int main. The compiler comes to this place to begin compiling a program. A function that doesn't have any arguments can be written with open and close parentheses. Arguments are just data that can be passed to a function in order to process that data in the function. Main usually does not have any arguments unless we're going to pass what are called command line arguments so that we can run our program with a set of arguments from the command line. On line 5 we have an open brace, an open curly brace. All functions must consist of an opening and closing curly brace. These indicate what's called the body of the function. Dropping down to line 6, we see the word cout. Cout stands for the standard output for a C++ program, which is the console. So it's output to the console, or cout. Next we have the two less than signs glued together called the put-to operator. It indicates that what follows it is going to be put to the standard output, in this case the console. Following the put-to operator, we have open quote, hello, comma, world, exclamation point, close quote. This is what is called a string. A string is one of the fundamental data types in C++, and a string is recognized by being surrounded by quotes. The last character in the line is a semicolon. That indicates that we're at the end of a statement. Statements are like sentences in the English language, and the compiler wants to see the end of a statement with a semicolon, just like when we're reading we like to see the end of a sentence with a period. That lets us know that there's a logical grouping that we need to recognize. As we go through this course in C++, you'll learn a lot more about how to write proper statements in the language. On line 7 we have a return followed by 0 and another semicolon. Functions are written to return values, just like what you're used to in mathematics. In this case, the int main function, unless there's a problem, will always return the number 0. And the 0 matches the int up in int main, which indicates that the function is returning an integer value, or a whole number. So when you see a return 0 coming from a function, that means that the function is ending normally without any errors. That statement, just like the statement above it, also has to be ended with a semicolon. And then finally, we end the definition of the program with a closing curly brace, indicating that that's the end of the function int main. In our next video, we're going to look at how we can modify this program to get some different results.